to you before, and you've teased me about being one of those deliberate creator fiends, one of those goal setters that has everything worked out for years and years. And I've laughed about that, and I've enjoyed that part of me. But something is changing. Things are softening. And what I find that I'm wanting now is, instead of reaching for all that creating of things outside of me, which is great fun.
Like what?
Like, abundance and houses and children and families and adventures like this cruise.
None of which is outside of you, because it is all what generates the vibration and the emotional response within you. So,
okay,
no creation outside of you. But we get what you're getting at.
Okay. Well, now I'm reaching for a feeling. The feeling of all feelings is the feeling of self-love. And it's what I want more than anything in the world. And what I'm finding when I do your processes, it feels to me like every process has at its heart enhanced self-love. Like
now think about what you're saying. You're exactly right, but think about it in the broader context. Every process that we offer is with the deliberate intention of helping you to release resistance.
Yes.
And when you release resistance, your cork floats and you become a vibrational match to who you really are. And when you are a vibrational match to who you really are, who loves beyond description, then that is the sensation that you have. And so you're exactly right. The processes are all about closing that gap so that you can perceive through a self that loves.
Yes. And all the processes feel like that to me, and I've noticed it in an incremental way, with the cork rising slowly. And when I came on this cruise, I wanted to sit in this chair and ask you to hit me with the self-love stick so that I could feel total self-love instantly, and not incrementally, not over time, but faster and more. And then I've been here all week, and I realized that incremental was okay. Incremental is wonderful, and that's been your message about everything we've talked about.
Because vibration is vibration, and you can't set your radio dial on 6:30 a.m. and hear what's being broadcast on 98.7. There is no such thing as a quantum leap. There is no such thing. Before you go further, we want to say to you, very simply, that the only hindrance to self-love, we're just going to lay it out here where you can see it, what has caused an eroding of self-love within so many of you is comparing you and what you want with others and what they want, and you and what you've got with others and what they've got. That's what causes an eroding of self-love. What causes a inclusion of self-love, an embracing of self-love, a loving of self, is a not giving a rip what anybody else thinks and having your eye only on these two vibrational points of relativity, where you thought by thought, experience by experience, conversation by conversation, memory by memory, experience by experience, just train yourself into something that feels better and better and better and better and better. In other words, it is, if there was ever an inside job, it's got to be that. Because when you are taught love by somebody outside of you, like a mother or a lover, as they are loving you and you're really feeling it, what's happened is they're tuned in, tapped in, turned on. They've already, for whatever reason, focused upon you in a way that they are a vibrational match to their inner being. And so they are love. They are liquid love. And as they hold you in their gaze, they flood this all over you, and you say, ooh, this feels so good. I want this always. But then you need their undivided attention. Then you need them to always be tuned in, tapped in, turned on, and you need them to hold you as their object of attention. And they will let you down every time, the selfish buggers, because they have other things they want to think about, and they cannot hold themselves to that standard. And so when you finally get it, that while it feels good to be loved, nothing feels better in all of the universe than to love. Yes. And we want to replace the word love with some other words. We want to say that when you are fascinated by something, you are in that vibration of connection with who you are. That's as close to love as it gets. When you are appreciating yourself or someone else, that's as close to it as it gets. Jerry and Esther can be in a restaurant, and there can be some sweet waiter or waitress helping them, and Esther will offer not to them, but about them to Jerry, some appreciation about them, and ripples of connected energy will just soar through her body as she joins us in our appreciation of that person, you see. So as you realize that here you are in this body, a perceiver, and you've got your telescope out there, so to speak, and you're looking out and you're looking at something, and whatever you are perceiving through your telescope is generating an emotional response in vibrational relationship. In other words, you would have no feelings at all if there were not this vibrational relationship between where you are and who you really are. And so as you look out with the intention of finding love, now you're looking for people that are tuned in, tapped in, turned on, which is not that easy to find sometimes, especially at work, and get them to love you, or you're looking for it in a boyfriend or in a lover or someplace, and now you're powerless because you can't control what they're doing with their vibrational relativity. And so you look for it and don't find it, and look for it and don't find it, and look for it and don't find it, and then you tend to call that self-love. I'm looking for love and I'm not finding it, and because I didn't find it, then I trained myself not to love me because I don't love me, because that one doesn't love me and I don't love me, because that one doesn't love me and I don't love me, because that one doesn't love me. And we say, they're not loving you because they're not tuned in. They don't have the capacity to love you unless they're in alignment with who they are. And so don't look for the love through their eyes, look for the connection through your eyes. And so let it be love of this rug, and love of these flowers, and love of this environment, and love of this wonderful air, and love of this ship, and love of what I'm having for dinner, and love of this hair clip, and love of this ring, and love of this watch, and love of these flexible fingers, and love of whatever I can feel appreciation of. And as you just begin to tune yourself first to the things that are easy to appreciate, and then to the things that are obvious to appreciate, and then as you begin looking for things to appreciate, you begin to tune yourself into a vibrational alignment with who you really are about things that are easier for you to love. Because, friend, we don't want it to be this way, it shouldn't be this way, but for most of you, the hardest focal point on the planet for you to love is that one you see reflected back in the mirror.
Well, that's exactly
Go home today or back to your cabin today and sit before a mirror and sit there and look into the depths of your eyes and look with the intention of seeing your inner being looking back at you and say, I know you're in there, and I have an inkling of how you feel about me because Abraham has been talking about it, and I'm just going to look for you until I find you. I'm going to stay here until I find that feeling of awareness of me and appreciation of me that I'm looking for. And from where you are, we can feel that you can get there very quickly. But the most important thing that we're saying to you is this self-love that you think you're looking for is not love of self, it's love that is self. And there's a difference. There's a difference between loving me and being me who loves. And it's being me who loves that is really you. And when you're me who loves, it's easy to love that one and 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 that one, and then it becomes irrelevant what your object of love is if you're loving. What difference does it make? What is the reason, the focal point for the love that you're feeling? What possible difference does it make? That would be like eating a really wonderful meal, and while you're eating it, being unhappy that you can't be eating that one and that one and that one and that one and that one. Doesn't matter which meal you're eating as long as the meal you're eating feels wonderful, and doesn't matter what the focal point of your love is as long as the love that you're feeling is the love that really is you see. That was good. That was really, really good.
Well, so I'm hearing you say, one of the things I love to do is I'm a writer. And I go out in my world and I see an old couple in the park and I feel incredible love just looking at them. Or a dog on the street, or somebody's shoes. So I can flow love that way. Are you saying that when I'm flowing love like that, randomly to anything and everything, that is who I am?
Yes, that is who you are. That
so
is
great.
who you are. And the more you do it deliberately and acknowledge that is who I am, then the more you demanded of yourself, and demand is too strong a word, but the more you set your intention to find that, and the more you look for it everywhere you go. And the more you look for it, the more you find it, and the more you find it, the more you look for it, until soon you just become it. And then you become this stable being who is never off your balance, who, if someone looks at you and doesn't find appreciation as they're looking, you understand it hasn't got anything to do with you. It never had anything to do with you. Everything that has everything to do with you, you are in control of, you see.
Well, then I want to probe a little bit why I already do that, looking out, which I was defining as external, but you corrected me, and I understand that it's not external, it's all part of me. Why is it so hard for me and others to look at our own human self and not feel that same ripple of appreciation?
Because you're
love?
looking for love to be focused at you rather than love to be focused through you.
But I
And
want to
because-
focus it at myself. I know what you mean about third parties. I've been down that rabbit hole, but I'm talking about focusing it on myself.
But what we're saying to you, and we want you to love you like we love you, but in the meantime, what difference does it make what the object of your attention is when you're feeling love? And the thing that is apparent, and we appreciate you saying it, and everyone feels it to some extent also, is that in your awareness of not loving self, you can't find self-love. And so we're just trying to build a bridge for you. That, in other words, anytime somebody hurts your feelings, it is because you're in a different vibration than who you really are. And so this quest for self-love, we think, is down the rabbit hole. We wouldn't be looking for self-love. We'd be looking for the part of self that does love. In other words, rather than saying to someone that we love, I want you to love me, we would begin training ourselves into a desire that says, I love loving you. I love the feeling of loving you. And how you feel about me is irrelevant. I love the feeling of loving you. And then what begins to happen, it's like our friend who got so angry at us, Abraham, I don't think you care if my lover ever comes to me. We said, that's exactly right. We just want you to form a vibration that makes you feel so wonderful that it doesn't matter. But then he cannot not come. In other words, when you find that vibration, the universe has to match you up with somebody that feels exactly that way, you see. But we don't want you to let what's happening in terms of manifestation be the criteria for how you feel. And that really is what we were wanting to bring this gathering round to discuss. Because so many people say, okay, Abraham, I'll play your silly games, I'll do your processes, I'll do whatever I can do to bring myself to the place of offering the vibration that will get me to the manifestation that I want. And we say, have you heard nothing from us? It isn't getting you to the manifestation that we are teaching you all of this. It is getting you to the place of feeling so good that the manifestation doesn't matter. And then you worry and say, oh, so I'm not maybe going to get the manifestation. We say, that's not what we're saying at all. We're saying the desire for the manifestation is what gives you the reason to want to connect to the energy that is really you, that is the true living of life. And that self-love is evident then, you see. And that's why we just don't hit you over the head with an I love me stick, because that really is not what you're looking for. You're looking for reasons to love. You're looking for reasons to love. And in this environment, there is so much abundance of that. We're appreciating your willingness to discuss this very personal thing, and we think that you have pinpointed something that is stuck in the craw of almost everyone. In other words, most seminars hammer away at the feeling of worthiness, because unworthiness is at the heart of everything that goes wrong for everyone. But these are just buzzwords that have only the potential of stirring you up and making you uncomfortable. And we're wanting you to make peace with where you are. So in that light, we would like to say to you that we find you loving of yourself quite often. And we find you absolutely lovable. We find you recognizing that you are lovable. And we believe with everything that we are that if it were not for your comparison of yourself to others, and here it is. This is really what is at the heart of all of this. So all of you stand where you do, and you launch rockets of different things that you want. And you conclude that others are already living what you want and you're not. And you gather that information by comparing the smiles on their faces and the words that they speak and the things they write in their books and the movies they show you. So you use their success as a club that works against you as you compare them getting what they want and pointing out to you that in some instances you're not getting what you want.
That's right.
And what we want you to understand is that you cannot accurately compare what anybody is getting because you have no way of accurately assessing their points of vibrational relativity. And what they appear to be showing you and what they're actually living are two very different things. Don't you know people that have all the money in the world and are still dissatisfied? Don't you know people that are living in what you think is your dream house who are dissatisfied with it? Don't you find it amazing that people that ought to be happy under the conditions that you think you're reaching for aren't? And doesn't it sort of point out to you that you just can't compare anything that anybody else is living with what you're living?
Yeah.
So we don't want you to feel bad about in every moment not being able to announce to the world that you have achieved absolute self-love. We just want it to be your never-ending quest. And we will say to you that you have hit upon something that is so essential and so to the core of who you really are and who you were as you came forth into this body. Because that self-love is the driving, motivating factor. It is the inspiration. It is the thing. It is the ultimate calling. In other words, here Source is over here loving you with everything that it is. And of course it is the quest that you are most wanting to answer. And so therefore, of course, it would be the thing that you would feel most uncomfortable about not achieving moment after moment after moment. But what Source wants to say to you is that the love that you hold for yourself in any moment is enough. In fact, it's the perfect love under the conditions in which you are living. It is enough. It's just right. Where you are on your path is just exactly right. It's exactly where you should be on your path. Can you imagine Jerry and Esther going across the desert? They're on their way from Phoenix to San Diego, and they're out in the middle of the desert. They're not where they want to be. They're in Yuma, for God's sakes. There they are in Yuma, no place to eat in Yuma. Can you imagine them getting so unhappy about not having completed their destination that they get all disoriented and end up going back to Phoenix? Phoenix, Yuma, Phoenix, Yuma, Phoenix, Yuma, Phoenix, Yuma. And that's sort of what you're doing. In your assessment of not enough self-love, it's a Phoenix, Yuma, Phoenix, Yuma, Phoenix, Yuma, Phoenix, Yuma, where if you can acknowledge that where I am is just right, and given the circumstances of my life, I'm right on track, and I'm reaching for a fuller, more encompassing sensation of love, and Source is over there patiently, never for a moment impatient, always loving me. Do you know, here's a good thing to say to yourself. Even though, for whatever reason, I don't like myself very much right now, I know that I have not caused Source to deviate in Source's appreciation of me at all. I have not convinced Source not to like me. Sometimes when Esther misbehaves, she thinks, Jerry probably doesn't like me very much right now, and she doesn't really know whether he does or not. And we would say, it's irrelevant how he feels. But even if she could misbehave enough to get Jerry to begin to respond in a way that displays to Esther that he's displeased with the way she behaves, Source will never, ever, 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 ever do that. Source maintains its absolute appreciation of you. And as you know that, maybe it will help you give yourself a little more of a break. Maybe it will help you to acknowledge I'm in the perfect place relative to everything, even relative to self-love.
I feel like you've just said to me that I had it all along and that I have it right now, and that feels like great relief. And I'm content with not being hit with the stick. I feel
Well, we
really,
just hit you with it.
I do. I feel hit by it. Thank you. Thank you so much.
My question's about getting out of the way. You talked about, say a situation happens, and even for me, and I'm part of a situation, which I'm really not part of, but for some reason I'm involved in a situation that to me feels one way. I deliver something.
Are you an observer of it?
I'm an observer. Well, I felt like I was an observer of it, but maybe I was more involved than what I thought I was.
We think so too.
Okay.
Yeah. So you are a co-creator in it.
Absolutely, but I don't like it. I don't want to be that co-creator. I don't want to partake of it. But for some reason, I was there in it, And I know I'm responsible
So what
for
we've
it.
been saying earlier about getting over the discomfort that I'm in the middle of something that I don't want, that's
That's
key
the
to what
piece.
you're reaching
That's
for.
the piece that I'm
It
trying
is.
to really, because I can do other things. When it gets me, it grabs hold. How does Esther, how do people ungrip it to let it settle?
Well, you go general. You try to distract yourself from it. But the most important piece for all of you, Esther too, is to make peace with the attraction of it and stop beating up on yourself and calling it negative attraction. Instead, call it clarifying attraction. Call it something necessary in order to help me get clear about what I want. A clarifying process. Because, look at it this way, there are a lot of pieces to a lot of different subjects. Start again. Every subject that is potentially active within you has similar basic roots. And those basic roots begin from your primary point of attraction. And your primary point of attraction is about how you feel. For example, someone who really doesn't like themselves very much, and we're not talking about you, someone who really doesn't like themselves very much, and it doesn't matter how they got that way. Maybe they had an abusive parent, or maybe they had a parent who was insecure also. Someone who doesn't like themselves very much, so has that primary point of attraction of, let's say, just for simplicity, of being a victim, then finds themselves mistreated by almost everybody in almost every situation. And so to talk about the situations, to try to work your way through, is it right or wrong? Should that person have been rude to you? Well, of course not. But if your vibration is such that you activate within someone who's usually not rude to anybody being rude to you, it means you've got a strong vibrational point of attraction going. So if you don't know that you've got it going and you're attracting the evidence of it, it is helpful somewhere along the way to have someone say to you, you attracted this because this and this and this and this and this and this and this, because there is a habit of thought that you've got going on that this is pointing to. So it's helpful when someone like you, who understands deliberate creation, who understands the law of attraction, it's helpful when you are standing in the middle of something that, as you say, I did not want this, to ask yourself, what is the primary vibration? Because it's not on the surface. It's not something that I went asking for. I didn't put it on my things to do today list. I didn't go looking for this trouble. It found me, which makes it feel like someone asserted it into your experience. They didn't. There's a primary point of attraction within me. So here's a really good question to ask. Are there other things like this that seem to come from a similar root that are showing up in my experience? And the answer is always yes. Because if it's happening in this regard, it's happening in others. So then you say, I'm glad this happened to point out that there's something deeper. Now stay with us, because this is going to sound like a departure from what you've heard us say before, but it isn't. Something that is deeper for me to tend to. Well, when we're talking about deeper, we're talking about going more general.
When you said deeper, my breath got held. It was like,
When we're talking about going deeper, we're talking about going more general. We're talking about getting off of the specifics of it and going more general. And the way to go deeper isn't by getting to the bottom of that and getting to the bottom of that and getting to the bottom of that, because we really mean it when we tell you there is no bottom. Because when you try to get to the bottom, you will activate it and more of it will come. So by going deeper, we don't mean getting to the bottom of it. We mean going general because of it. We mean going general because of this. Trying to find a way of making this work for me right here, right now. Find a way of soothing myself in this right now. And if you have 5 or 10 or 20 or 30 episodes like that that come up in a week, you're having a good week because you've had 5 or 10 or 10 or 20 or 30 opportunities to go general, shift a vibration, change the frequency. You've gone deeper. Without even knowing what caused that frequency to end up where it is, you raise the vibration of that so that you don't have access to those kinds of experiences. The experiences that are coming to you, the way people behave in your experience, are an accurate reflection of where your vibration is.
so the example you just gave of Esther, where things happen. She's in whatever. Asks the question. Is she calm and just waiting for an answer? I mean, that's the part that gets, I think, a lot of us caught up. Is like, how do we stay?
Well, here's the thing that we want to really emphasize about that, because our friend was saying, basically, that wouldn't it be nice to be like Esther and have instant access to the answers to all questions? And we want to explain that that's not the way that it is, because while she and all of you have instant access to the answers of all questions, it doesn't mean that you are in a vibrational place of being able to receive them. And so
chill.
you see, once you've asked the question, it's there. And as life keeps helping you to focus upon it, the focusing on the question was the operative word there. If a question is active within you, the answer will come. And sometimes, hear this, you're going to really like this. At least we do. Often the answer to an important question comes with more trouble first. Because the trouble clarifies the question. It puts it in fuller fashion, and it heightens your determination to focus yourself into alignment with the solution. So we would say, embrace everything that comes. Someone mentioned this yesterday. When something wonderful happens, Esther would say, I did that. And when something not so wonderful happened, Esther would say, I did that too. I'm responsible for the creation of my experience. I am the creator of my experience. So what this conversation is really emphatically about is not being so hard on yourself when something is not going the way you want it to. You are such a person who loves that when you're not in a moment of love, you feel awful. And then you want to beat up on yourself for not being in that place. When it is logical, as you move through this life experience, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching as you do as you move through life, that you're going to come across things that activate within you something less than who you are. That's what negative emotion means every time. Something's activated in you that is less than who you really are. But hear this, it's not someone pointing that out, aha, condemnation. You are less than who you really are. There's no one outside of you acknowledging that. It's just you feeling the vibrational difference between who you really are and how you want to feel and how you're feeling right now. You're just working the bugs out of one more thing. And if you really get to that primary vibration by caring about how you feel and going general until you soothe it. So, give us an example if you want to.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got it. I got it. That's the stuck point that I get when I am unaware. Probably not clear.
You're never stuck. But sometimes you're offering a vibration that opposes where you want to go.
Absolutely.
So it feels stuck. Because you want to go this way, but you're going this way. So it's a tug of war that makes you feel stuck. And in the moment that you chill, you let go and off, and the momentum begins again. It's the struggle that we want you to stop.
Because the big question,
It's
what
a
the hell was
somewhere.
that? How did that happen? What the? I mean, really, out of left field. What the hell was that? How did that happen?
Evidence of a pattern of vibration that opposes the direction you're going. That's what the hell it is. It's evidence. It's evidence of a contradictory vibration that you're wanting to soothe if you can right now. So by saying, what is that, in a condemning of self mode, or in a condemning of someone or something mode, in a condemning of Delta Airlines mode, in a condemning mode, just makes it bigger and holds you away from what you want longer. So when you ask the question, what was that? It was help. What was that? It was clarity in the making. What was that? It was a clarifying experience. What was that? That was an indicator. Seriously, we know that this is a ridiculous analogy, but it applies perfectly. Do you look at your gas gauge that says empty and say, what in the hell are you doing? The nerve of you. Empty? Are you kidding? I've got a lot to do today. And I need gas in my car right now, and I resent you telling me that it is otherwise. You like indicators, because indicators help you to define what you're going to do differently now you've received the indicator. What are you going to do differently? Well, hopefully what you'll do first is chill. What you'll do first is say, thanks. Thank you for the indicator. Thank you, law of attraction, for being consistent. Thank you, me, for being so sensitive to the way I feel, because in years gone by, I wouldn't even have noticed this, and in years gone by, I wouldn't even wanted to do anything about it, and years gone by, I would have just perpetuated. But thank you, me, because I felt it, and so what was it? What was that about? What was that about? Well, it doesn't really matter what it was about. It's an indication that there is some resistance going on. I'm going to watch for other patterns about it. What do I think it might be about? What do I think it might be about? What do I think it might be about? A shortage of something. It's about a shortage of something. It's either a shortage of money, usually. We're talking about generally. It's either a shortage of money, shortage of attention, shortage of time, shortage of space. It's a shortage of something that is a shortage of something. So I'll watch for other evidence of this. But generally speaking, I know that this is an abundant universe, and I know that there is no shortage. And I know that whatever I want can flow to me. And I believe that law of attraction is consistent. And I'm really good at this. I've shown that to myself. I'm doing really well at this. And I sure do like my guidance system. I love every big or little piece of negative emotion that I can feel. And I'm so happy that I'm consciously aware of it. I feel better just in knowing that in feeling it, I stopped the momentum. Because I stopped and said, I can tell I'm moving in a direction different than I want to. What's the direction that I want to move in? I want to move toward clarity. I want to move toward fun. I want to feel good more of the time. I want to be an uplifter. And I want to uplift others. I want others to uplift me. I like that dance that we all do. That's the dance I do best. That's who I am. That's what usually happens for me. This is a hiccup that I like smoothing the bump out of, but it's not significant. What was I